Monday, another case of the Scaries to start your work week. Welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries, where we have all your gore, lore, and more, covering all the latest horror happenings, slicing open all the latest horror news, and dissecting it bit by bit, finding all those juicy innards. Pour yourself a nightcap and turn on your fright light while we take you on a tour of terror. Oh, yes, we're back here. Oh, I'm in the corner now. I'm the guy in the corner.
Yeah, we didn't see that. Oh man. Good stuff. Yes, well, we're back. Yeah, go ahead. Take it away.
Oh, no, I was just saying, we're back here, and it looks like the chat is rather rambunctious tonight. I love it.
I know
Good
everybody's
evening.
real live and ready to go. Unfortunately, some of the tech was not. Yeah, we couldn't
We got there.
Luke got on here and nothing was working. He couldn't talk to us. So we were like, dude, I guess you just got to restart your computer. We were in for the long haul, preparing for a mindless number of minor issues and hiccups, but that fixed it. So,
We were going to do a silent episode,
Mm-hmm.
Art the
Yep,
Clown style.
Yep. Oh, you already got called out, Adrian. Gannon's paying attention. There you go. Boom.
That's right. I've got a new poster. Can you guys? I mean, you can probably see it from here now, but we got. The
I still
Conjuring
can't
up
tell
there.
what it is because of the when I was looking at it, I couldn't tell. So they might not know, but you just said it. So
Darn, I should have played a guessing game. That would have been cooler. But yeah, I was at the IMAX seeing Demon Slayer, and I was like, "Hey, y'all got posters?" And they only had this and the Grateful Dead one, and I was like, "I'll take both because both are dope."
there you go. There you go. Yeah, hell yeah. Definitely excited. Yeah, we're going to be doing a whole lot tonight with the VHS franchise, so probably a little lighter on the news. But I'm really happy. Everybody did their homework. I see a few other people, Mama Mayhem in here calling herself out, saying that she's checked them all out. Good. Always good stuff. And yeah, this is actually quite a fun moment because at the time, Luke and I actually just got to check out Halloween. VHS Halloween just the other day. So our review will be out tomorrow, and that's when the embargo lifts. So I'm excited. I cannot wait. I won't say anything. We'll keep it very, very spoiler free until that hits. So yeah, but not bad things.
Yeah, we're very anxious to talk about it. We cannot wait, honestly. Yeah, we can't give too many thoughts, but it'll be a very, very exciting review, to say the least.
Yes, I can't wait to talk about them. I mean, it's been one of those things where this franchise has kind of gone through so many hoops because, again, like we always say, we were never big found footage people. So then kind of going back after really giving found footage a shot and really getting to explore this series, it's like I really do love so many of these entries, even if it's not just one specific movie. It's like there are short films in here that are always sticking out in my mind, especially in the three we're gonna talk about today.
Yeah, there's always so much fun to be had in these just because there's such a different flavor. Even if it's hard to hate, a full film just because there's such an intriguing concept because there's so many creatives behind it. So you can always find at least one installment, I think, when you go through there to at least say, okay, I had some fun with that. But when you have more than one and the majority of them just really hit for you, that's when it gets really exciting because it becomes almost hard to choose. Like when we talked about Beyond last year, and that was really my introduction into the series in general. And there were just so many in there that were really just great storytelling. So it got me excited. And then, as we're going through this, as we'll talk about, there are some misses in here, certainly. But overall, there's a lot of fun in this franchise just as a whole.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of I look at this as in the same era as Paranormal Activity, where it was one of those things that could have easily gotten the yearly treatment if not handled correctly and just fallen into kind of obscurity, which I mean it kind of did after 3 for a few years. But this was certainly something that when they've rebooted it since everything, I guess you would say 94 and everything after, I feel like there's maybe one or two or maybe one in each of the installments since then that's just kind of okay, but even then it's not bad. It's not like a really terrible execution or even a really ununique kind of concept for what they're going for. I think they are kind of just a Halloween holiday staple at this point for me.
Oh, certainly. I think this is a franchise everyone looks forward to. I was really surprised, and we'll get into it with our reviews, me just getting into this franchise and, thinking they had come out, either a year or two apart, and then seeing that big layover from, I think, was it Viral to
Oh yeah.
94 or something?
Hmm.
And
For
man,
real.
that was like such a huge layover. And I was like, and then watching Viral, I was like, okay, well, maybe we had to re-rack some things and figure it out. But one of my favorite things about VHS in general is the creativeness behind using the found footage and, finding a reason for the story for someone to have a camera or to, use a body cam, something like that, and be able to intertwine that into the story because you get such an interesting take from so many different creatives as their reasoning behind it. And I think that's as we're going to tackle VHS Halloween, that was very creative aspects to that one in terms of the reasoning behind it. And as we talked about some of the ones today, I think that's the fun of it, just being able to see that different flavor and different takes on found footage, especially when you try to pack it in with like 15-minute segments and try to make those count.
Yeah, they do a really good job, and the wraparounds they do a lot, I think, for it too. Because like Adrian and I were talking just before, we all got live and stuff. While we were waiting for Luke's computer reboot, we were talking about these, and I was just saying how it's like, the wraparounds for me, like they really make the movie almost like because like you keep going back to it. So there's a couple of them where it's like, they're all right. But like the wraparounds really have to be interesting and top notch and exciting. And I think like 94 and a bunch of others, especially the recent ones, have had really interesting concepts that I guess kind of play to the theme the most, obviously. But then I think like with this new one, like again, not getting into it, everybody is kind of expecting the holiday horror, and I think that's where they should be going with this franchise. I think we talked about it last week a little bit where we said we wanted to see like a Christmas one. I think like a 4th of July one would be good. Luke, didn't you say you wanted to see a Valentine's Day one?
Oh yeah, I'd love to see a Valentine's Day one. Just because we only have so much limited Valentine's Day horror. So when we go into the holiday horror aspects of it, I think especially getting 4 or 5 stories of just dedicated Valentine's Day horror could be a lot of fun just to see those different takes, especially as they're getting to those 15, 20-minute marks. And, who knows, that could really ignite something. We always want to see, I mean, we love My Bloody Valentine, but there's just what Hard Eyes came out earlier this year. There just isn't enough, I don't think. And I don't know why I love that holiday, just the aesthetic of it so much and really what you can bring to it. I don't really think it's been fully tapped in just yet. But as we look at like Halloween and, well, inevitably get a Christmas, I think that's probably going to be the next, just because it's kind of a layup in terms of holiday horror. That's what a lot of people do like. But as we get further down the line, when we get more obscure things, I could easily see Valentine's Day being on that list, being one of the runners up right after Christmas.
Oh yeah. And I think like they would be smart to do that. But I don't know. I mean, with Beyond last year, they went full blown like, aliens and, all that stuff. So it was like then they jumped to a holiday. So for me, they might just go a completely different direction. And frankly, if they can do space and aliens and sci-fi really well, they can do whatever. It's like that's fine. Like go for it, because like I'm really excited to see what they bring to it. I also would love to see, and I know this is like really nerdy, so maybe only the nerdy people in here will be with me on this, maybe all of you. But I'd love to see a making of for these, where it's like just a documentary, like say they do another trilogy, have them showing the behind the scenes for 3 years and put it together, even if it's like 2-3 hours, put it on Shutter of just the making of VHS, and then show how they pick the concepts, what are the pitch meetings like, how do they select their filmmakers, how do they select the concepts. Like I want all of that. I think that would be so cool.
I think they could even do that if they wanted to. You don't even have to hold off and wait 3 years to, kind of jam pack it in. You could, again, with so many creatives involved and different creative teams as they're going through different stories for just one VHS, there's a whole documentary to be made yearly if you wanted to go that route with these, just because there's such unique storytelling. And going back to the idea of the holiday, I don't think they need to double down on that in terms of we need to see that one every year. I think we talked about it on the channel when we loved Prey so much, and the joke becoming, oh, they're just going to jump years in time periods, and that's what it's going to be. I don't think VHS needs to become that. I think, we could do Christmas. It doesn't necessarily have to be next year. It could be a couple of years down the line and have that. I know we talked about this, not necessarily with VHS, but it would be a lot of fun. We talked about it, I think, maybe a month or two ago with it, like VHS doing cryptids and just kind of,
Oh yes,
you
that
know,
was a great idea. That was a
doing
really good idea.
an aspect of that, because we loved Frogman, and to see those kind of takes, whether it's Bigfoot or just something more obscure, with creatives really just taking that found footage aspect, I think that can be so scary at times. So it's like, I would love to see that on deck if we do get something that they're going to deviate from holidays. And because I think, you could do Christmas in a couple of years. You don't necessarily have to do it next year, but I think that could be interesting topics to tackle eventually. But it's like, you could really just mix it up, how you said, with aliens and things like that, and just kind of go that route with it, kind of keep us on our toes.
I agree, and actually you got my brain tingling here with an idea for a video, so I'm gonna write this down so I don't forget it. But yeah, Adrian, why don't you take the floor a little bit, since we're just doing a little VHS talk? I mean, this is also a relatively, I wouldn't say new series to you, but it's one of those things where it's like you saw the first two and then didn't explore any further, I think, right?
Yeah, I remember a long time ago, we put on VHS 1, and I barely remember it for whatever reason. I don't know if I fell asleep or what, but I remember pretty vividly, like, this scene where, run up to the warehouse, and that's all I really remember. But, kind of getting reintroduced to the VHS series, Viral was an interesting place to start. Personally, like that wraparound story you were talking about, which I think it was something along the lines of a car chase. I wasn't really sure what was going on there. It wasn't really captivating me a whole lot, but some of the stories within it were pretty good, I'd say. The one with the magician was pretty cool. That kind of reminded me of a film that we've worked on before. And yeah. And then the second skit was my favorite, with like the portals and stuff like that. I love that twist ending at the end. Is kind of like you thought everything was going to be okay, and then it really wasn't. And then, I'm a real sucker for just sci-fi stuff. I got to say, though, VHS 94, I think it is, or 95, right?
94. Yep.
That one was a clear cut better than the other. I knew it within the first 10 minutes. The beginning of the wraparound story had me hooked. I wanted to know what was going on. They were doing this raid. I love how it kind of ended up at the end of the movie. But the short films within it were also my favorite. I really loved the one where they were doing some surgery and like making animatronic sort of like cyborg people.
Yeah, that's
they were
a
like
badass one.
Yeah, nightmare cyborgs. I was like, that is so cool. And also all hail Ratma.
Yeah.
I came here to say that. But yeah, 94, fire. Loved it.
Love it. Good to hear. Good to hear. Yep. And we'll dive a little deeper into those here in a minute. Let's catch up with the chat real quick. I saw a couple of messages here I wanted to touch on. Gremlin, what are you saying? I guess it's time to break the news. I'm deleting my channel because of YouTube's policies, because they took down my one stream, and now it's time to, I guess, do another channel, I guess, but it sucks. Oh, I mean, if they took down one stream, I mean, did you get a strike for it? I would doubt you got 3 strikes. So, because like that'll go away in 3 months. If you even if you get a strike, you just have to, wait it out and not get any more. So it's like, I wouldn't delete your whole channel, especially when you have so much when you have some people built up and momentum and things. And yeah, like you got the thing with the shorts going well. So I would sit on that for a minute. Don't jump the gun.
I mean, if you feel like starting another channel, feel free.
Yeah.
But, before you fully decide to get rid of it, maybe sit on it for a second and either create another channel, kind of see how that goes first.
Yeah, definitely sit on that decision for a minute. I rewatched Strange Darling yesterday. This is Stephanie, of course. And I have to say, awesome soundtracks. Yes, Strange Darling, I have been trying to find a free minute. I mean, I don't think I'm going to get it this month with October coming right up and all the stuff we've been doing. And then, all the recovery we had to do this week from last week. Basically, I just don't think I'm going to get time to sit down and watch it till November, but I want my wife to watch this movie so bad. I really want to watch Strange Darling again. It's super good.
I remember going into that one with no expectation, didn't really know too much. I think I watched the trailer maybe one time, and then I think even watching the film and then going back and watching the trailer, you have a completely different appreciation for that film and the way that it's cut and the kind of hook that the film has. And Kyle Gallner, oh my god,
Mm.
what a treasure that man is. I know he had just come out with a film.
I was gonna say I gotta follow back up on that. I sent them an email.
Yeah, that one really flew under the radar. I have not heard anything about it, and I just remember seeing that at the beginning of the month that it would be coming out, mid-September at some point. I haven't even followed up to see if anyone had any discussions about it or anything like that. It kind of really just flew under the radar. But I mean, man, does he need more roles? Even if he came out with 3 films a year, I would still say that, just because Kyle Gallner is just a phenomenal actor and seems like a really great guy. I know we've every time we post something about him on social media, he always retweets it.
Yeah, he's super cool. Like, he definitely seems like a really down to earth dude, and I love the projects he picks. I mean, everything from Smile to like Strange Darling was another one, but then he also had that one Passenger
Oh my
from a couple years
gosh.
ago. That was also really good. If you guys have not seen Passenger, that's an intense flick.
Again, going into that one with no real expectation. Again, I think I saw the trailer one time. His performance in that is fantastic. There is a haunting scene at the what is it, the fast food restaurant, and it's like, my gosh, just the way that film kicks off, the aesthetic of that, just how beautiful that film is in general, and the interaction between him and, I'm forgetting the other character's name, throughout that is just really, really well done. And the versatility Kyle Gallner has just from role to role is absolutely epic. Again, I think he's gonna go down, at least right now, is such an unsung actor just because of he's really flew under the radar for a lot of people. I know he's a familiar face to a lot of people, but when you see him, you know, you don't know him by name, I guess is really what I'm getting at. But I mean, I'm hoping he really pops off in the next few years because the guy is absolutely a force when it comes to acting.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm just responding to a message real quick. All right, cool. But yeah, no, there's really a select few actors that I'm really excited to see like take on bigger projects, and he is one of them. Where it's like he's kind of right there. I'm just waiting for that firework to be lit, and then him to get like shot up into like a Nolan movie or something, where it's like he just got a real meaty role, and it's like I think he's doing the right thing. Yeah, because this is another one. Necro Said Dinner in America, great flick. That was one that I checked out because of the Red Letter Media guys kept talking about it like crazy.
Also, don't skip
Yep.
over, Erica said Kyle is a cutie. Yes, full on
Oh
Steph
yes,
Muffin. So
love
in
him,
agreement.
love him. Let's see. Yes, I saw Justin Long's going to be in the new Grave Encounters film. I did see that. That was something that there's a little bit of like kind of fallout from Fantastic Fest. We didn't have it as a topic or anything, but I was just going to say if there was anything that we wanted to mention since we're coming into the last few reviews, there was a couple pieces of decent news. That was one of them, that Justin Long and I think his wife too, Kate Bosworth, aren't they also like working together on that to reboot Grave Encounters?
I think so.
Mhm.
And also because one of the directors from Grave Encounters directed Coyotes, I believe, right? And
I believe so.
so I'm assuming that's probably where that whole thing, that discussion came from. I have yet to see Grave Encounters, so that is on my watch list. What they did, Strange Harvest, is that correct? Is the same
Um,
director, or is that different?
he was a part of it. I think that was a team, if I remember correctly. That was like a Grave Encounters, and they can correct me there. I'm going to check it right now, but I believe that's like a group of people who did
Okay,
those. And I
so
don't think the same people did. Like I think they changed out some people
I got
from
you.
1 to 2. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Stuart Ortiz and Colin Millihan for the first one. And let's see, Grave Encounters 2.
How many Grave Encounters are there?
Just 2.
Just 2. Okay.
Yeah, this will be the third one. Yeah, so they switched directors, but Stuart Ortiz and Colin Menahan did come back for directing the other one. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So yeah, they're not bad. They're interesting. I think that it's a series I do want to revisit because I haven't seen them in a long time. But I definitely remember them being one of those found footage like kind of accolades, just like VHS and just like Hell House, where it's like really low budget stuff that people are always talking about in like horror circles and stuff.
Yeah, that was something when I did my found footage list ages ago. Grave Encounters had popped up. My wife loves that movie, and I never got around to watching it. It's still on my watch list, but as soon as this popped up with Justin Long being involved in the reboot, it instantly piqued my interest just because, I mean, Justin Long with horrors is always phenomenal. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I'm going to go back and watch those two because they've eluded me thus far, but I think they're streaming, aren't they? I don't think they're
Hmm. Yeah,
hard
they're
to get a hold
streaming.
of.
They're on Tubi, I'm pretty sure right now. They're usually on there at least. Speaking of which, because I actually made a whoopsie and had to deal with a fucking water heater that I'm never going to stop talking about. So I missed
PTSD.
my time with Coyotes. I know we're going to do like a catch up video for Fantastic Fest to get all the reviews out, but what were your, just give us like brief thoughts on Coyotes.
I think Coyotes is okay. If you're looking for like something that's pure horror, you're not going to get it with Coyotes. It really is just kind of Justin Long and a family with a group of coyotes. There's really nothing to that other than what you get really face value. I was kind of almost expecting some sort of hook with the plot as we were going to get something maybe deeper, especially with the way the film kicks off. But you don't really get that with that. So don't go in with that expectation. I think maybe I was underwhelmed because for some reason I had some sort of expectation with a hook, but it really is just kind of face value. In terms of the gore and stuff, I mean, with the expectation of, you have these coyotes in there going crazy on this little sect of the town, you think maybe there would be a little bit more gore than there is, but they're way heavier on the comedy elements to it, which at some points they work, some points they don't. And I'll never stop talking about my issues with comedy and horror, but I don't think it necessarily works every time, but Justin Long always has a great delivery. So I would say if I had to give it a rating, like we usually do on the channel, I'd say worth a watch. I don't know how much rewatchability there is for it because a lot of the jokes, they aren't like tremendous jokes that are gonna be like, I can't wait to relive that moment or anything. So it just kind of is probably a one and done for me. It doesn't have me itching to go back and watch it. If it pops up on streaming, I may give it a passive watch, but it's not something that it's going to be head and shoulders above a lot of other things that I would watch over that in streaming. So it was okay. It's not bad at all, but it's a breeze to get through. I think it's an hour 30 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it does leave you wanting more because it never fully kicks it into that fifth gear, I guess you'd say.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. I know we kind of saved that because I was hoping I'd get a second shot at that screener, but I have yet to hear about it, and I don't
Radio
think we
silence.
will, so yeah. But I'm still gonna check it out at some point. Obviously, Killer Animals. I gotta do my stuff here. We got a couple donations here real quick though. We got Silhouetted. What's up, my boy? Brought up a 90s German splatter called Ostermartag. Is that how I say that, Luke? I'm me. I don't speak German.
I'm fluent in German, so but I think you're right. No, I'm not entirely sure. I would say that would be my best guess as well, Dylan.
Yeah,
So.
I actually wrote down the first one, but I will write down the next one then, because I remember when you brought that up. I do want to check it out because if it's splatter, if it's gory, if it's slightly disturbing, and I can justify it on a list, I'm always looking for suggestions. I know later this month we're getting the Patreon. That they're going to get that kind of early, but I got to drop my post in there probably tomorrow, where I'm going over all of the movies that people suggested. I selected 5 of them, so we'll get to see all the Patreon picks there for my next disturbing list, and I am eager to watch some of these. They are quite special. Ugh.
You sound excited, Dylan.
I am excited. I'm always excited to watch gross, awful stuff. No, it's just some of these I know the reputation of some of these movies. Some of these movies were ones I've kind of been avoiding because of the reputation, and now I must do it. It was going to happen at some point, like it had to, so it's like we're getting there. So
getting into deep depths there. I'll say, Dylan has went on this journey of, watching disturbing films, and it's kind of just, part of the game, honestly. But I'll never forget the time we hopped on for a review, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but you had just got done watching Wedding Trough, and I have never seen Dylan like just completely defeated and disturbed because, you know, you always watch this stuff and it's like, it's a film, no big deal. But then I remember us before we did that review, you explaining Wedding Trough to me and how it's not even simulated, and you just looked absolutely defeated for the entire time we were on. So I'm fully expecting that here in the next couple days when we hop on for our next review after Dylan's done watching some truly disturbing recommendations.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun video, but I am excited to put it together. I think it's going to be hopefully at least those, because again, I like the reactions. I think that they're funny and I like that people like them. So I like doing it, but it is one of those things where it's like you like everything about it except watching the movies. So, and that's the longest part. So yeah. It's gonna be something. Let's see here. Do we want to talk a little bit of news real quick before we finish up and hop into the deep depths of the VHS franchise there, boys?
Absolutely. We can easily do that.
All right. Well, I'm going to pull this up. But Luke, why don't you take us away? You know the top story. It's in the thumbnail.
Yes. Well, weapons seem to tickle a lot of people's fancy over the last few months, but looks like we are potentially getting a prequel, which this had been a rumor circulating for a couple weeks, even right after Weapons had hit theaters, that they were going to do a backstory to Aunt Gladys. And it looks like, you know, for me, I guess I never put that much stock into it. Of course, we're going to get these rumors that something else is going to be happening. But Zach Greger had come out recently with Fangorian had said, yeah, the rumors are true, and that he does have a story that in mind, and he's pretty excited about it. So the rumor, he said, is not bullshit. So we're going to see if maybe we're going to be getting that. There is, I didn't know this, Dylan, but maybe you had heard about this. This was the first time of me hearing it, that he did have some scenes in Weapons diving into a little bit of the backstory to Aunt Gladys, but he ended up deleting those from the actual film itself in case that this did come up. So it does look like he has got some sort of story there. I just don't know. Do we need that?
You know, that's kind of been the thing for me this whole time with this movie is like, I like the idea of just letting Zach Greger do what he wants to do as far as just like going forward and making the movies that he wants to make. Cause I think both of his movies were pretty damn good. But at the same time, it's also like, yeah, do I want to kind of further anything that we got in Weapons anymore? I don't necessarily think I do, but again, I do trust this guy's vision. I think that he's got, you know, a very unique voice, and I do want to see what he's going to do with it. And if he really thinks that this is the way for him to go forward, and it's not just him saying, well, I have this nugget of an idea, let me try to stretch it out, or I have this whole thing of like, you know, what I'm going to do with it, and it's something that's not it. I don't want it to feel forced, I guess, is what I'm worried about. And doesn't seem like that's the case, but hey, I will take it or leave it. I'm good either way.
And I remember leaving the theater of Weapons, and one of my positive notes of that was, we didn't dive too deep into the aunt's backstory, because I didn't think we needed it at the time. I think, you know, sometimes things left unsaid make things way scarier than when we really kick over the rock and see what's underneath. So, you know, I don't know how I feel about this. One of the things about going into Zach Greger's films, you know, we didn't have this in Barbarian because we didn't know what we were in store for. And he really caught us off guard with where that story does go. And now Weapons, we had a bit of an expectation, but we didn't know really where the story was going to go. We knew we were in for some sort of twist and turn, which I think he did deliver for our taste. We were both really excited about that film. Now, when you look at something like Resident Evil, he's pulling probably from his own story, so we don't really know where he's going to go with that source material. If he's going to stay true, he's just going to do his own story. Whereas if we do a prequel to Weapons, I mean, do we expect some sort of twist and turn? We know where the direction leads because we've seen Weapons. So is that mystique gone to an extent? Because it's like, well, we already know what's on the horizon for Aunt Gladys, and sometimes, you know, getting into Strangers Part 2, you kind of know where this is leading, so some of that tension's gone. So we kind of know that there's a chapter 3 on the horizon for that. So it's like when you look at Weapons, twist and turn wise, would this be the first story where it's just kind of, more so well crafted and we're not really having that hook, that crazy hook that we know so much Zach Krager for doing? Or is it just kind of, he's going to do something off the wall with it? I wouldn't expect that with a prequel like this, just because we already know Weapons happens after that.
I kind of feel you there. I feel like one of the biggest draws for Weapons for me was like the whole mystery of like, where did the kids go? Did the one kid actually have something to do with it? Stuff like that. But I'm also kind of with Erica and some of the others in the chat where I am kind of curious to see, the whole explanation on Gladys, what she's done, maybe how she got her powers. Obviously, there wouldn't be like a whole lot left there as far as like plot twists and things that would that we wouldn't expect, because I could see it going in a direction like, maybe she's given the powers, or maybe she was a victim and there's like a scarier witch or whatever that was able to pass it on to her, perhaps. Either way, it definitely wouldn't be the mystery that we got with the first movie, but I am curious about that character, and I do like a decent witch tale a little bit.
Yeah, and I think like I'm seeing a lot of the points here. Obviously, also I just want to mention we have Crystal Cleveland in the chat here. She's always wonderful. We have had her on BSG a handful of times. What is up, Crystal? But yeah, I'm seeing what everybody's saying. I'm seeing Necro here, Erica. Everybody's kind of bringing their points up. Brandon he's more on my side with it, but I don't know. I think that like, yeah, I agree that like with Breaking Bad. We got Better Call Saul, and I haven't finished Better Call Saul, but it is something where it's like, that is a high quality show and a show that I understand is beloved. And I don't doubt that it's, going to end as bad or even anywhere near as bad as any of these other prequel shows have. But I just don't know. I think that for me, I like Weapons as a standalone, but again, I am still willing to take the journey. I think that they just have to honestly be very upfront that it's not going to be a mystery. If they're going to just really make this a character study of Gladys and get into her, like Adrian said, like who are like maybe the witches that gave her abilities or something, like if that's the route we're going to go, he needs to just commit to that full bore upfront, in my opinion. Because I think like if you're trying to almost outdo the mystery of the first one, I think that's going to be a bad road to go down. Don't do that one.
Yeah, I think, when you're dealing with the idea of witchcraft, I think there is a lot of room to play in terms of the storytelling and what we can really get out of it. So I don't think we need to do like a sympathetic character or anything like that. I don't want that out of this, especially when you look at Weapons and how well done it felt like villain-wise we had gotten. So I don't think we need really that sympathetic character. If we're going to deep dive into the lore of what we're going to get or how we got powers, things like that, I think that could be interesting. I just don't know if I'd be expecting a hook in it. And I don't know at what point in Zach Krager's career do we start saying we don't need a hook in his films. M. Night Shyamalan kind of had that issue with his career where we're always expecting some sort of twist. And it really just felt like as we got later into his filmography, it was just kind of, that's what the film was about. He was trying to figure out how to do a hook, how to, bring an audience in with that, because that was the expectation. So I think Zach Krager is probably going to shed that stigma at some point. I don't know, maybe if we do a prequel here, that would be the way to go and just do a well-crafted tale, really deep diving into the story. Maybe Resident Evil's that. I don't know, because I don't really have an expectation for that.
That's true. I keep forgetting that Resident Evil is going to come out first. So, and that does seem to be, and I know it's not anything like the source material. He's doing his own thing, but it's like, that might be the best proving ground to see what he does without some, astronomically huge mind earth bending twist. You know what I mean? That just like throws the movie on its head. Like, I'm sure there can be little twists and stuff. You'd expect it. The games have it, but it's one of those things where it's like, that's definitely going to be more straightforward, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know too much about Resident Evil. I've only, I've seen a handful of the films, and I haven't really played any of the games. So I don't really know what to expect in terms of the story with that one. So, and I don't know if there's going to be an expectation for people to say, is Zach Krager going to go off the wall with it? Just because, Barbarian was a pretty big film coming out of it, but there was really no hype around it. It was just kind of one of those films. I was sold on the trailer, Dylan. I know you kind of had a different expectation for that film, weren't necessarily 100% into it until we really got deep into the narrative there. And I know a lot of people had talked about it even after the theater, and it showed up on a lot of people's, favorite of the year list. So going into Weapons, there was a lot of hype around it. So going into Resident Evil, I assume that there's probably going to be a lot of hype around Resident Evil, and now Zach
Yeah.
Krager's name carries a lot of weight around it. So I don't know what people are really going to expect out of that film, other than a well-crafted story, but maybe a lot of diehards with the Resident Evil franchise or video game franchise, or I guess even the film franchise nowadays, will go in there expecting some sort of hook. I don't know. I really don't know in terms of the lore around Resident Evil if there you can even do something like that, or would it, even if he does, would that have an effect for people just because if you're not really engulfed in that lore, is it really gonna hit with you? I don't know.
Yeah, I actually want to toss this one over to Adrian because Violet brought up this. Speaking of Resident Evil, has anyone else played Silent Hill F? I just finished it last night. And Adrian can actually weigh in on both these topics because he is a very big survival horror fan, especially when it comes to the franchise Silent Hill.
Yeah, what these guys do for horror, like movies and TV, I feel like I can do a bit more for like horror video games and stuff. Silent Hill, love that. I love it more than Resident Evil. Actually, I have not played Silent Hill F. The last Silent Hill I played was Downpour, but I'm very interested on getting into it. Haven't really seen anything about it, and I would really like to go in blind when it comes to these kind of things because, I like to be caught off guard and stuff, and have the experience feel more natural for me here. But as far as like the next Resident Evil film goes, I never really seen any of the movies, but I played a lot of the games, and I feel like there's definitely some good. Oh no, I don't stream. I've always thought about though. I kind of want to stream. I feel like that'd be really fun.
Why don't
Let
you
me know if that's something I
stream
should do.
playing some games on this channel?
All right, man.
You could
Hey,
totally do that. That'd be great. Like, yeah, just set up a stream during the week,
would
pop
y'all
on,
be
play some
interested?
games.
Let us know, man. Let us know. But yeah, I'd be down, man. Silent Hill, Resident Evil, that's my stuff, dude. Also, shout out to Dead Space. Love Dead Space.
Oh yeah,
By
I can
extension,
second that one.
yeah, by extension, I also really love The Thing as well. Not as much as Dylan does here, but yeah, I mean, I'd be excited to see anything. That new Silent Hill movie that's going to be coming out, I think next year. That one looks really
Yeah,
good.
it's early 2026, I'm pretty sure. But hey, that's one of those things where it's like I'd love to see what Zach Krager comes up with for Resident Evil. I think it's good that he's getting out there in front of it, saying that he's not going to be like married to the source material. He's not adapting a game directly. He's kind of just going to do his own thing. I think that's probably the best way to go with it. Cause I mean, we just saw what happened with Last of Us. Like the first season was an adaptation with some expansion to it. I have not seen season 2 yet. I love the second game, but I just haven't had anything to really push me into watching it yet. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I think taking that title and basically just doing what they did with the last series of Resident Evil, where those didn't really follow the games at all, just took elements of it and did their own thing. I think doing that, but with somebody like a Zach Krager behind the camera writing and directing it, I think you're going to have a much stronger output this time around.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting with Zach Krager, just with the creativity and that he carries with him, especially setting those parameters. I think Dylan and I have talked about it. I think maybe we've mentioned it on the channel, where I have a lot of respect for creatives that take a franchise that has had so many installments, especially really when you get into kind of trash installments, and they try to play within the space, the parameters that have been set. So if Zach Krager takes the parameters that have been set within Resident Evil in the video games and kind of just does his own story, doesn't pull from any actual characters or anything like that, but just plays within the world and stays true to the parameters that have been set with him, I think he could really knock that one out of the park. I think he's a guy to do it. I think he's a guy that can really, really strive in when you set a parameter or a creative boundary for him, because he is such an intriguing creative in general. He kind of finds these different avenues to take that I think a lot of people maybe don't even have that part of their brain unlocked, so to speak.
Mm.
And I think that could be a lot of fun. So, that would take away from an expectation, where a Resident Evil fan would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the hook that Zach Krager took, because they are well versed in the universe, where it's like, hey, I'm not playing in any characters. I'm, was it Jill Valentine is one of them, where it's like, I'm not bringing any of these characters over that you have to recognize. It's like, this is just, we set the parameters within the first 10-15 minutes of the film, and then kind of just say, okay, now we're off on our journey, and you can really just hop in there. That could really reignite that entire franchise and really, have a fan base that I don't even know when the last time the actual live action Resident Evil films had come out, but it's been a minute. And I know that there are people that it had lasted for what, a decade, I think, maybe.
Oh
I don't know,
yeah, the
to be
old
generous.
movies.
Yeah, yeah.
It just kept going, dude. They didn't stop. Like,
So I like hitting the kind of reset button on that and seeing maybe we can reignite that franchise for people to actually be excited for it again, even if Zach Krager doesn't do a sequel for that film. But I think it could still be a lot of fun to get people intrigued by that again. I think he's a creative to easily do that.
and let's not forget here, Brandon brings this up. His whole point is it's still risky going that direction when all the movies except for Welcome to Raccoon City. So yes, they did already like do a fresh reboot in between. I don't know if you forgot about that, but yeah, a couple of years back they did. I think it was 2021. Yes. All right. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So that it's like he knew I was going to ask for the date. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where I see what he's saying, and that one was a bit more faithful to the games. But like, I also just think like if you look at Gracie's point here, this is from the games. Yeah, Resident Evil 7 and 8 were both essentially games that took place in the same universe that was removed from established cast / story, and those turned out pretty great. So they did kind of just say, continuity, schmontinuity. Let's just do something because this is a good idea and this is a good, like, scary concept. So I don't know. I see arguments for both. And I think for me this time around, I think the best bet would be to do something if Zach Krager wants to go more original, as long as he lays the groundwork to have some ties to the games, maybe even doing it kind of like, I know I bring this up a lot, is the Watchmen HBO series, where that is a sequel to the book. It is not a sequel to the movie. It's literally following the elements of the book. Like maybe make this almost like a prequel to the very first game. And then if you want the series to continue, you can layer in more characters and bring in more stuff, that's related to the game, maybe more storylines that are related to those. Like, I just think there's a lot of ways you can go. And when you have somebody as competent as Krager in, again, the writing and directing like seat, I think that just points to positivity for me. I think that this is going to be a very well done series, or at least just one movie, even if he only tackles this first one and they continue on with somebody else.
And I'm not well versed in the Resident Evil movie franchise at all. I think I've seen maybe the first three, if that. I know I've seen the second one. I can't remember what was beyond that. I think I've seen three of them, but I don't know if I'm out of line in saying this, but it's like Zach Krager has been a force over the last couple of years in terms of his creativity and what he's doing. So I think, if you're going to have someone to say, okay, just pull from an original story and let's see what we get, he's easily someone that you're going to have confidence in. I think his name nowadays in the horror space, after Weapons, people are saying, oh, it's a Zach Krager film. I'm going to
It would be like if Jordan Peele came out and said that he wanted to do it, but basically do the same thing. I would feel confident in that as well, just because I think he's also a very competent writer with a lot of big ideas. So it's like, I think that he's proven himself. There's a handful of people I totally agree that would make my short list, and Krager would be right up there.
Yeah. And I can't remember if the initial article when we had learned that Zach Krager was going to do a Resident Evil film, if he already had an idea in mind or how that went. I know he wanted to do it, so clearly he has some sort of vision as to what he wants to do with Resident Evil, especially being pretty much a dead franchise, as we're not really getting that much from it nowadays. So for him to have some sort of direction and where he's going to go, I do have confidence in it. I think Zach Crager's one of those talents that, just like we talked about Kyle Gallner, we'll see a film that he's in, or see a film that Zach Crager directs, whether it would be horror or not, I'd still want to check it out just because of how well he can craft a story. So I don't know. He's easily a guy that is gonna spark intrigue regardless of what he does. So it's smart play to put him in the Resident Evil franchise and see what they're going to get. Because I think, going back to my original point, saying, I don't know if I'm out of line. I don't know. I can't remember the creatives that were attached to the Resident Evil film franchise. So I don't know if there was anyone that really carried that weight to say, oh, they could really have an interesting take on an original story with Resident Evil. So Zach Crager is one of those people, and I think there's only a handful of those people right now. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do, even though I don't really have an expectation in terms of Resident Evil and that lore, just because I have honestly limited knowledge of it.
No, I get you. I feel you. It's so early. We still have to see a trailer. I think that's really where it's going to come for me, is to know what exactly we're doing once we start to see even just the first poster, once we get the idea of what the tone's going to be and how they're taking it, what they're doing. Because the other thing I forgot about is I'm pretty sure the Netflix series Resident Evil thing they did, that one season show, was also very different from what Resident Evil has done before. So yeah, it's they're just, it's another franchise. It's like Spider-Man was a few years ago, where it's just damn, that didn't work, hit it again. Let's just keep going. But hey, that's what happens when Hollywood's out of ideas and we're just a world of IP now. So we've done this to ourselves. So damn you, Marvel. Damn you. No, all right. Let's zoom on into the next story here. Luke, take us away. What do you want to talk about next?
Well, we kind of have an easy transition here.
Yeah, that's true.
With Boulder Light Pictures, who were a company that has produced both Weapons and Barbarian. They have been working with Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema over the past couple of years, since 2023. That contract is up at the end of 2025, and they will be starting with Paramount starting January 2026. So it looks like they're going to be crafting some, I'll take the quote here. They're going to be begin developing, producing, and releasing a slate of high concept, boundary pushing films for which they've become known for. So when you look at Paramount, I think over the last couple of years, what they've really doubled down more so on, I think, Scream. Is that right? And I think is A Quiet Place one of them as well. I think it's kind of franchise horror, it feels like, rather than those one-offs of really intriguing stories. If I'm being correct here, hopefully I'm not entirely wrong, but
they had they've it ain't great. We'll say, okay, Smile was one. Yeah, that was one that
it was probably the most original in concept wise. Especially, I really enjoyed Smile too. But I don't know if they're really pulling high concept, really original works over the last.
They did the two Pet Cemeteries.
There we go. Enough said. I retract my statement. Very boundary pushing with Bloodlines there.
Yeah, no, I mean they've had some stuff here and there. I don't think anything that's blown my mind. Like you said, Quiet Place is them. Those are pretty good. I don't know. You know what I find shocking about this, and I feel like this is gonna really annoy people if I do this, but I'm just gonna put it out there because I can't, and I have to get this out of my head. Why would you do this? Was Warner Brothers, I understand, has kind of been messy for a while, and I know they probably had a lot of stuff going on over the last few years, with them messing around with Warner Brothers, Discovery, all this. But Paramount's in the middle of doing that right now. They're just about to restructure everything because they just literally they either bought or they just absorbed another company, the people who do the Mission Impossible movies. Who are that? Is that Skydance?
I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to look this one up.
Okay, well, they just bought, I'm pretty sure it's Skydance. They just bought Skydance. They're absorbing a huge studio there. Why would you do this to yourself? I feel like, especially after the year that Warner Brothers just had, it's you wouldn't see that as, okay, maybe they're finally getting their shit together and we can, kind of see, they just gave them Weapons, which did amazing. Superman did really well. And then I mean, like, we also have Sinners earlier this year. So like horror is thriving over at Warner Brothers right now. I mean, The Conjuring, say what you will about it, huge franchise, like just made a ton of money on the installment they all thought was going to kill and peter out the franchise. No, it's back and bigger than ever. So it's like, I don't know why they would do that. I mean, hey, I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know what Paramount offered, but I just feel like if that's what they're trying to escape, then yeah. Oh, and brands and Minecraft. Yeah. If you're stepping away from horror, they've had an even bigger year. Like it's crazy. Like if they had Minecraft and Superman this year, that would have been huge as is, but they've had all those other ones I mentioned too. It's like, I don't know. It just seems like this is a weird thing to do right now.
It probably goes down to an offer, I would say. I'm assuming
Has
the deal that they had in 2023. I mean, to be honest, prior to that, I think they've had some intriguing films, but Barbarian was probably the biggest benchmark that Boulder Light had at after that point. So looking at that, and then Weapons being the phenomenon that is as well, it kind of probably led to I don't know if agreements prior to Weapons maybe, and now this is just coming out, or this happened right after Weapons, and that being such a big film, it has to just come down with a better contract that they got from Paramount, because Paramount clearly acquiring them, they want to get in the game in terms of this high concept horror and really pushing those boundaries, which makes sense because that is the type of stuff that is selling right now. Yeah, I mean, we have those IPs that a lot of people do love, but then usually when we get into the end of the year and the most talked about horror is a lot of the one-offs, the Sinners, the Weapons, the Barbarians, that are just like, okay, well, those were really unique stories that we don't see that often. I think that's what a lot of horror fans are gravitating toward, even by word of mouth, where it's like maybe people don't show up initially to the theater for certain original properties, but then as reviews come out, people start talking, then the audience shows up a week or two later. So, and I think maybe that's what they're going to double down on, especially having Paramount Plus. They probably want to create high concept horror that's going to go straight to streaming to get people to subscribe. I think someone mentioned in the chat there, Necro did, about UFC showing up on Paramount. So they're clearly trying to
they're just absorbing stuff right now.
Yeah, to get that those streaming numbers up. And it's like, there's a high competition right now for a lot of that stuff. So
yeah, and
I can easily see that being a big driving force for it.
Yeah, Necro just brought up Dexter Resurrection, which literally, like, I guess some people are upset with some of the things they did towards the end of it, but it doesn't seem like they're as upset as like New Blood or like when the series first concluded. So it's like that's been, rebooted basically. Like that's going to be a big thing for them. But yeah, I guess that makes more sense. But to me, it's just kind of like, if you're running away, because I've heard this from a bunch of like smaller studios that have worked or partnered with Warner Brothers, is like they've been running away for the last few years because of just like the toxicity between this Discovery and Warner Brothers merger, and just like how people like are kind of like they have certain subsects. Like I guess DC's been running pretty well recently, but then like you'll have other parts of it where they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like they're selling movies for or writing movies off as tax write-offs. It's like, why would you go from that chaos to another? But I guess it makes sense if, like you guys are right. They're bringing up all these other things they're acquiring. They're just trying to build a platform. So in 4 years, Warner Brothers we might be sitting in a situation where Paramount just had 4 bangers of a movie come out, and I don't know. I just feel like if it's their last 2 like team ups with them have been great, I don't know why they'd want to jump ship and go with a completely different team, because you never know how that's going to go.
Yeah, and you look at we talk about like something like Barbarian and Weapons, those 2 films coming out. Those are the 2 that we know that came out, where it's like, who knows what discussions look like between Warner Brothers and Boulder Light, that maybe there's a handful of properties that never even got a chance to see the light of day because they're like, you guys, I don't know about that one. I don't know if that story is really going to hit. I know Crystal mentioned the substance. Oh, yep, the substance there. It's that story on paper would be, I think, what studio had the substance prior to
I
movie
think
taking
it
it
wasn't
over.
it Warner Brothers.
Was it Warner Brothers? Where it's like sometimes we don't know how to market these films, and it's like, hey, this is the stuff horror fans love. This is why we came to the game. This is what keeps us coming back to it. And who knows what Boulder Light had maybe in their back pocket that never got to see the light of day. And then Paramount comes along. When you look at Paramount and you have a
Oh, it was
couple of
Universal
Universal,
Pictures.
okay,
Mhm.
and when you have maybe a streaming service that has a couple of hits, but over the past 5 years doesn't have the greatest track record, they're like, hey, we're going to offer you this. We're going to give you creative control in a sense to say, hey, what do you guys want to release? We don't know what the audience wants. You guys clearly do. Maybe that was the selling point here. And they're going to say, well, we're going to be able to carve out this niche of horror fans that are going to come to our streaming service and say, we're going to go to Paramount Plus for our horror because, hey, we're not doing it right now. So let's see what we can get out of it. So I think maybe that could be the logic behind it. Boulder Light might have way more creativity in terms of parameters that they can play with.
Yeah,
Would
that's
be
true.
maybe the
More,
logic there.
yeah. If they're going in on top, then it's kind of nice that they can just walk in, kind of demand whatever they need, and then just go for it. 100% with what Crystal says here. Studios need to stop being afraid. Yes, and I think that's perfect. The Substance is a perfect example of like why they should stop like pussying out about that stuff, because Mubi bought that and from Universal because they didn't know how to market it. They put their best foot forward, and look at that. It was nominated for Oscars. It was nominated for Best Picture. Like that just goes to show you, it's like the hunger is there. And I mean, I say this all the fucking time, and I feel like a broken record, but like look at like what Shudder's doing. Shudder and IFC, that pairing since they came together was just like, it's a match made in heaven. Again, not every single movie that they release is a banger, but for every single Late Night with the Devil, every single say what you will about it, I get no better example. Every single VHS movie, we have to take a black car or some other forgettable throwaway one every once in a while. But like they are really looking for movies that are almost like gems, that they're like every year whenever the festival season comes around and I see the IFC Shudder email pop up with all their announced slate, it's just like, dude, I cannot wait to get my hands on these. As a horror fan, like they are my favorite studio right now.
Absolutely. And you look at IFC and Shudder, and yeah, they have some misses, but overall, I think the way that they are not afraid to acquire properties that, hey, this could work.
Look at Good
it,
Boy. That's coming
yeah,
out at the end of the week. That's another one.
You bring up Black Car, and it's like, Nick Frost is a killer. It would that works on paper, and it's like, let's take a chance on this. Yeah, overall, it didn't work as to where that story goes, but
Thank you, Gracie.
You're looking for that that performance, and so it's like they're willing to take a chance, and I think that's why we kind of put Shudder on a pedestal. They've earned it over the past few years to say, we have so much intriguing horror that comes that route, and I think other studios, especially you look at The Substance, and I think maybe there's a bit of a spotlight on that film and how well that was received for a lot of people, and not just the horror community, but it's like it got nominated for a lot of different awards, where it's like, okay, I think some studios are starting to catch on to say, well, maybe we should not be afraid. I don't think, they're fully there yet, but I think maybe that's where Paramount was, is like, hey, we haven't been doing a bang up job over the past 5 years with horror,
No.
So it's like, what do we have to lose? Let's get some creatives that are behind two of the most unique films over the past couple of years, and in producing that, and say, let's pick their brains. Let's see what we can get. And maybe we can start making a play over the next couple of years to say, people are going to come to Paramount to get interesting horror. I think maybe that's the route they're going with, and Boulder Light saying, okay, well, hey, we might have a shot here.
Yeah,
to
if
actually
you'll let the chains off, we'll run.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
like because who knows? Maybe it was more about creativity rather than monetary. I don't know. Because we, Dylan and I being creatives, we always talk about stuff in terms of what we would love to. We have concepts, and it's like, oh, this is one that we'd have to be attached to because it's tugging at our heartstrings, and it's so sentimental to us that we couldn't pass it off to anyone else. Maybe that was the reasoning behind it as well. Who knows?
as far as ideas for Luke and I go, it goes, we have a pile that we're willing to sell. We have a pile that you might be able to talk us into selling, and then you have a pile that is we have to make this. So it's like that's what it turns into all the time, and it is nice to have that because it's like, it just shows how much we've written and how many concepts and ideas we've come up with, and just like really, I think we just need to get our asses moving and start making some stuff to show some people and get our own little Shelby Oaks out there, you know what I mean? Maybe we'll get acquired by Neon. We know the guy who did it, so we can just ask him what he did. So
there it is. Following those footsteps. There we go.
Absolutely. Now that'd be cool. That'd be amazing. Wouldn't that be for us? Like, just that would be like the Stuckman's film getting acquired by Mike Flanagan's fucking company. Super cool. He'd been championing his movies forever, and then like, what if like we got Stuckman to like produce one of our movies, like even smaller budget, maybe even if it, like I've always said, if I could get a movie on Screenbox or Shudder, I could die a happy man. Like I want those. That's where my future, I feel like, is as a potential filmmaker. And it's one of those things where like they've just done such a good job of just showing like what we just talked about, where it's like they're so willing to gamble on creativity and letting people go. Like, they had the balls to distribute When Evil Lurks, not only in like, on a streaming service, but they put that one in theaters. Like that's huge. Like that movie especially.
Absolutely. That's a perfect example. I mean, like when you're talking about ballsy moves, it's like When Evil Lurks we were excited for that film when we got a screener for it, but then that's a film that you would think that a lot of people would not resonate with, being a foreign film, having a very particular subgenre that I don't think a lot of general audience horror would really resonate with. But that film is continuously talked about as one of the scariest over the past few years, and I think it's more than earned that reputation. And that's where it's like, you absolutely have to take those chances as a studio. You have to really put your backing behind these types of films, because that's really what horror fans want. We've seen so much of the same stuff going through the 2000s of kind of recycled ideas and just basic jump scare stuff that I think a lot of horror fans are really, really hungry for those unique takes. And that's what, when you look at decades upon decades that we've lived through, those are the ones that really have the staying power, are those unique takes, those really original stories. That's what horror fans want. And I think hopefully studios are starting to catch on. And maybe in the next few years, we'll start even getting more unique stories. But hey, maybe that's wishful thinking. I'm not sure.
Who knows? You have compiled forbidden knowledge to make the most disgusting movie in history. Yeah, I think like there's definitely one concept that I talked to Luke recently about it, and it's not like even like violent or even like essay stuff or anything like that. I don't even really like watching that in my movies. So this one would just be pure gross. It would just be like literally like just icky, like almost what do you call that when it's like you're a germaphobe kind of stuff. Like that would be the concept there that would drive somebody who's like afraid of like icky stuff. That would make them go crazy. So, and that, I thought that was a fun idea, and Luke seemed to respond well to it. So
you need to like bathe in bleach afterward is where Dylan's going with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But alrighty, I think now that we're a little over an hour in here, we got 3 films to discuss, folks. Let's get Adrian back in here. Adrian, if you want to leave us on the full screen since you're here, if you want to actually pop us over, this one probably makes more sense. We don't need the if you're gonna hit the follow.
They know where
button,
to find us.
They know Erica's got our back on that one. So why don't we dive in and let's start talking VHS. So on this episode, we have to talk about VHS 2, Viral, and 94. So if you haven't seen those films, please do yourself a favor, at least for 2 and 94. Maybe click off, go watch them, and then come back to this later. But if you have seen these movies, feel free to chat with us. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. This is a first time watch for both of these gentlemen. I have seen these movies, at least the second one I've seen a handful of times. I've seen Viral now my second time, and then I've seen 94 a handful of times. So that is everything. Gentlemen, let's dive in with VHS 2. Luke, since we started off with you being the solo person on this journey from the beginning here, why don't you start us off with your thoughts on VHS 2?
I thought it was an adequate follow-up. I think I had seen what we talked about it before, where I had seen the one the gentleman in the park riding his bicycle. I had seen that one, but the rest of it was new to me. So overall, I enjoyed what they presented. I don't think like every story was as great. I still think one was my preferred. But I love that first film or first short. It has to do with I don't even know what it's called. Let me pull it up. It's the ocular thing though. The eye or whatever the hell the guy had, the gentleman.
Was it Phase 1 Clinic? Is that the
Yes,
first
yep,
one?
yep, the implant, ocular implant. I thought that was a really intriguing story. I really like the aspect behind it of where we meet the other character and what she can't see or can only hear. The other supernatural elements, and I thought that was rather terrifying because you have the different pieces to the puzzle in terms of what we do get, where I think it was her uncle or something like that, that is following her around and being able to actually see the visual there, but she is not able to. She only hears it. I thought that aspect, that device was rather terrifying for me. So, having those different ideas of what they can see, what they can hear, really brought an intriguing concept. When we talk about, I think the biggest compliment some of these films, these shorts can have is I'd love to see a feature on that. And I think that would be a really interesting feature to really see how they could play with that device. I think that was a lot of fun. So that one, as really a kickoff, really got me intrigued for it because I think there's so much at stake for that very first short. It's like, yeah, I love the kind of narrative that they form everything around and it gets you engaged. But if that first short doesn't work, I can see myself tuning out of these easily.
Yeah, I like Phase 1 Clinic. I don't think it's as impactful as some of the ones from the first film, but I think it changes it up a little bit more, especially with it being, a bit more having that sci-fi tinge to it with the eye and everything. But it's one of those things for me where it's like, I think this one definitely does set the stage for this being a bit more like, you can tell they have a bit more of a budget this time. They have a bit more of a kind of like, they don't have to like cut as many corners, I feel like, but that only like intensifies as we get through it. And I like Ride in the Park. I know that one gets a lot of shit from people, but I think that it's still kind of a fun idea for a zombie thing. It's got some cool ideas, and like you said, it's very often cut off and then thrown into its own short film on YouTube. You can find it there.
That one was just really basic in terms of when you're going to come up with a story. I think is like kind of a safer play. Nothing really unique about that one.
Yeah, and then I think the one that we're all eager to discuss, of course, is the third shorts, which is Safe Haven. Now that to me is one of the best of the entire VHS franchise, as far as just like, holy shit, what am I watching? This is going from 0 to 100, and it just keeps moving.
I think that one overall is my favorite of this one easily. And I didn't even know the names attached to it until after the fact. Because I went into these completely cold. And then afterward, I think everything pops up. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. It really does feel like all those films that I had seen previously, just the grossness, the action that is attached to those types of films, like it totally feels like that vibe. When we talk about what year was this one made, actually? Because like when we talk about filmmakers going off after VHS and doing these other types of films that are, you can really see those glimmers of, and like Safe Haven is absolutely that, of being able to go off and make films that are similar in tone. It's like, that's why I think Safe Haven works, because it's like you can easily see that in a lot of these other films.
And having the pairing of both Gareth Evans, known for the Raid films, and how do you say, is it Timo Tarahato?
We'll go with that.
The director of The Night Comes for Us. He also, didn't he just do that one with Tom Hardy? We just watched it, didn't we?
Oh, what's it called? That one film.
I keep wanting to call it like Chaos or something. I'll find it. But no, he just did those, and it's like he is somebody that I absolutely adore and love, and I think like his work's great. But then Gareth Evans is somebody that like he is one of those filmmakers that I always look to whenever I'm writing something that's like action involved, or if I'm ever going to choreograph any kind of like fighting or any just kind of like beat 'em up kind of style movies. His movies are the ones I'm going to watch to basically get inspired and everything, because it's like the Raid and the Raid 2 just hit so much harder than some other movies. Like Adrian, I don't think you watched this one, did you? You didn't watch part 2?
I did not.
All right, but you can at least chime in on that. At least
Yeah, Raid 1 and 2, the fighting is next level. I mean, I remember a friend was showing me this on, Raid 1, a fighting scene off of there on YouTube. And I remember, I felt like the audio was a little delayed. So I went and actually watched it, and it was not delayed, and it was just so clean and crisp, and all the kills and the moves that all the characters had were just amazing, man. Yeah, so I'm right there with Dylan. If I ever shoot an action movie, I'm definitely studying the Raid. And then the Raid Part 2 turned it up even more, man. I mean, they even got more creative with like the camera angles and stuff like that. Like, a body would drop, the camera would drop with the body. It's like, ooh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just one of those ones where it's like they really they just have like a special kind of like understanding on how to not only perform these stunts so that way they can pull them off, but they're just so fluid. Like they look like they have been literally fighting and training for these fights their entire lives. Like it's insane to me that people made that movie and like nobody got seriously fucking injured while they were making it. I have to eat my own words because Gareth Evans was the one who directed that. And I just went there. So yeah, the movie I was thinking about was The Shadow Strays. That was his other one that he did. And 2 movies I just recently watched. I was going to tell you about them, Luke. May the Devil Take You and May the Devil Take You Too. You should watch those. They're going to be on a list pretty soon.
I'm excited. Like, both these directors have, it's a lot of great action, but they have that tinge of horror to it because they're so gory and they really go into a lot of dark places with their action elements, which I think sometimes is hard to do, really, mix those two elements, because sometimes things just get too action heavy and it just comes off as like a pure action film, which, the Raid is action certainly, but they have this dark aesthetic to it that they really go into these disgusting elements to it, where it's like, you can almost equate it to just a basic gore film as well. And I love those aspects. Like when I went into The Night Comes For Us, I was excited because it had that Raid feel to it, and it did not disappoint because, again, it goes into some really dark places with its gore, and just how the uniqueness of intertwining action scenes where you just feel an organic way to get to some really disgusting gore. It doesn't feel like there's a hard stop to say, okay, now we have to inject gore. You just find some ways to really intertwine it and to keep going. So it's like there's a really disgusting scene happening in a main action sequence, and it doesn't even stop. It keeps going to that next step, and it's like I'm really focused on the action, but I can't stop thinking about what just happened in terms of the blood and guts. And it's like, those are the elements that I love. I think that's why Safe Haven easily has those elements to it. And it's like, that's why I think that's my preferred action. You know what I mean? Where it's like having that tinge of horror to it. It's such a happy marriage that I don't think enough people take advantage of. They just want to go straight action with it. But it's like, it's like I was going to say,
yes, Upgrade is a great example. It's Grindhouse, it's got the same edges to it, but it's a little bit like more sophisticated than like your stereotypical Grindhouse, I would say. But like The Night Comes For Us 2 is honestly like, I love the Raid and the Raid 2. They're violent as shit and they're gory as hell, but like The Night Comes For Us, it is like X10 that. Like there are some, like I watched all those recently for that brutal action movies list. Like I was watching all of them, and I watched the Raid 2 and the Night Comes For Us real close to it. And it's like, although I did put the Raid and the Raid 2 much higher because I have such a love and affinity for those films, The Night Comes For Us, I think it's definitely easy to say it's way gorier and way more like icky in how they show the gore and stuff. Because like the Raid, they are killing people and people are getting cut and they're getting like their heads slammed into stuff and everything. But like there's literally like just full-blown sequences where they're just slicing open people's jugulars, and it's just all over the place, like a Tarantino movie. So yeah, that's
Fillet somebody's thigh too.
dead ass. Like, they really go for it, especially in that final fight. They're just really fucking each other up. But like, I think like having these two work together, it's like two of my favorite action, just like fight, violent horror action filmmakers working together. It makes perfect sense why this is one of my all-time favorite VHS like shorts of all time, and definitely makes VHS 2 that much better.
And it makes you want to see more of it. Like I said, the biggest compliment these shorts can have is to say, I want a full-length feature out of this. And Safe Haven is easily that, where it's like it establishes this weird lore. It's got some great action. It's got some great gore into it. And it leaves you still asking questions while also feeling satisfied in a sense of the short that you do get. But then you're like, man, I would love to see them really expand upon this and really get crazy with it, because that's the kind of door that it opens. Is like you can really dive really deep down a rabbit hole and really just take the leash off and go crazy with it. And I think Safe Haven really opens that up, especially being able to look at this in 2025, knowing that this is from filmmakers of The Raid or The Night Comes For Us. And it's like, man, some of the dark places that they can go if they had an hour and a half to 2 hours to really expand upon the story, it could really be something special.
Yeah, agreed. And I actually totally agree with Necro here. Seeing someone pop is always a plus. Yeah, it's definitely, it's got some very memorable moments. And then, yeah, it's like, I would say it's definitely one of those things where this is certainly one of those things I'm going to cherish even more now that I know like the full scope of what these gentlemen went on to do and how they went to go. It's like, that's one of my favorite things. Like, I know Bit Flipper brought up, yeah, here it is. Didn't Ty West direct some of the shorts in the first? Yeah, and just seeing all the stuff like Ty West has gone on to do, it's like awesome to see where these guys start out. Like, it's really great. And one of my favorites for Ty West, I know this is going off topic, is actually You're Next. I love knowing that he's like an actor in that. Like, it's like when he dies, it's like, oh geez, that's the guy who did Pearl and X and Maxine. Like, damn, look at that.
I love his character in that. You know, a lot of great characters in Your Next, but knowing he's an actual director and the kind of character that he plays in the discussion that they have sitting at the dinner table is absolutely wonderful. Would I have loved to see him last longer? Absolutely. But I think the way that he really gets things kicked off there is just absolutely epic into a film that, my gosh, has so much endless rewatchability. I'm easily putting that one. I know I just recently watched it for that home invasion list, but it's like that is easily one I'm going to be watching throughout the month of October, because it is such a fun watch. It's a breeze to get through.
Fantastic October horror film. Absolutely love that one. It gives you those spooky vibes. Like that is like the souped up version of The Strangers without it being like The Strangers, but it has that same neighborhood isolation vibe. Let's see here.
They cover so much ground in that film while still maintaining a home invasion film. And really kind of just flipping the narrative on that one is fantastic.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, now we gotta take a turn into
something even better.
And we get to do this one with our boy Adrian. I'm actually going to let him start with this one because unfortunately this is where he decided to kick things off with his wife. So it's like, I'm really glad that 94 is there to pick up some of the pieces. But Adrian, take us away. VHS Viral. How was it?
Yeah, just like I said earlier, man. It was an interesting movie to start it off with. My fiance, for whatever reason, thought this was going to be like a snuff film type thing or whatever. I'm like, no, that's not at all what it was. At the end of the film, I was like, so was that deserving of your fears? And she was like, no, not at all. She was like roasting it the whole time. The whole thing, kind of like the beginning with the girl, and it was kind of like, perverted and stuff like that. Definitely made me feel a little uncomfortable. That's obviously what they were going for there. And then I was kind of caught off guard. Like, they're like, oh, this guy got arrested. We found a bunch of videotapes in his wall and stuff. And then we, lo and behold, got to hear the story of Dante the Great which I actually kind of like that from like a storytelling angle. It was just cool to see kind of like how he got his powers and what he did with them and how he ended up.
Yeah, I think like VHS Viral as a whole has some interesting ideas, but I just don't think anybody making this one, I don't know if they were like really strapped for time and really strapped for cash, but like these ones just feel very like, I
Kind of
would say
quick.
most of them, yeah, they feel very just like, all right, we got to get through this to get through it. Like it doesn't feel like how the later ones feel, where it's like they've actually taken some time to have some fun and come up with a really fun concept before they did it. They were just like, damn, we got to get another VHS movie out. And that's just how I would describe Viral as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, Dylan, as you said earlier when we started this off, we were talking about VHS Halloween. You said you'd love to see a like kind of making of in terms of how they pick ideas and things like that. I think if they made one for VH Viral, it would be like it would actually be a connector piece to VHS 2, where it was like all the ideas that didn't make it to VHS 2, and they had to get something out the next year, and it was like, oh, let's do Viral. Let's just do all the B or C level ideas, because this one, honestly, it felt like such a disconnect after seeing the first one and the second one, and then instantly hopping into Viral right afterward. It just felt quality wise that there's something really missing in translation here. It honestly does feel like we're doubling down on this concept of we have to get one out. We just have to get one out every year, and that's what this franchise was in danger of becoming, I think, until they took that long break. Because Dante the Great, yeah, I can see where it's an intriguing concept. I just don't think it was pulled off to the best of their ability. It was just kind of like, we kind of have a grain of an idea. Let's just go with it and see what we get, and we'll throw it out there. And then it continuously, I watched this one with my wife, and it was like, she loves VHS 1 and 2, and then this was her first time watching Viral, and honestly, she could not, nothing hit. And I was like, yeah, I'm right here with you guys in terms of, it just feels like, hey, we have to throw something out here. Just, I don't know. I don't think any of these stories work for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, which one is the one? It's the, is Vicious Circle the one with the time travel?
No, it's called
Is that Parallel Monsters?
Monsters.
That's
Yep.
okay. So that's the one that I think has the most potential out of all of these. That's the one that I think
100%.
has the most like intrigue and interest, because the rest of them do feel very like forgettable and very much just like you said, just half-baked ideas that didn't quite, get cooked enough before we made the next one. But that one actually feels relatively close to the first and the second film when it comes to just the creativity of it, like tackling the idea of time travel and just like bringing that into VHS. I feel like you could do something cool with that, especially like seeing where we went with like VHS Beyond. It's like that's one of those things where it's like I think that would have been really cool to play with that some more.
Let's be more specific with parallel. I just said it. Parallel monsters. It wasn't exactly time travel. It was more like kind of like Rick and Morty stuff, like another dimension, another reality. It was like hell reality. But yeah, that was my favorite idea. I really loved how it ended up, man. It was so cool. It was a little goofy for sure, but that's definitely the one that had the most potential. The skateboarder one, I liked it, but I kind of like didn't really know where it was going, so I couldn't really connect with that one a whole lot. And the payoff to me was a little unremarkable, but it was entertaining nonetheless, and I love skateboard culture. So
yeah.
And like going into Parallel Monsters, I like you guys. I like the concept of it, and I was like, it's intriguing to see where we go. As Adrian said, it got a little goofy. I think that's where really it lost me. I think a lot of times in VHS Viral, it seemed like I don't think VHS has ever had the best CGI, in terms of the budget.
CGI was extremely goofy,
and that's where I think this one. The stories are not great in terms of where they go. The grains of ideas are okay, but it really hangs its head on it seems like they injected CGI into a lot of these stories, and it just kept losing me after that. It was like, I'm not fully on board with it, and I can always cope with some of the CGI in VHS. I'm not looking for like great visual effects in that aspect of it, but it just kept like they kept injecting it. I was like, okay, I'm trying to get engaged in this story, and then it just looks really bad, and it goes in a weird route, and I'm just like, okay. It started off intriguing, and then I just kept getting one strike after another strike after another strike, and that was just my total experience with Viral.
Was the Johnson monster at the end of Parallel Monsters, was that practical effects? I think it was. It looked
Yeah,
kind of
I think that from what I remember, I think that was practical.
Attack of the Killer Genitalia facts.
You know,
Exactly what I was talking about.
and I think I would have liked that if we would have set that up in a goofier concept, maybe something a little lighter. I would have been like, okay, I'm 100% on board with this. But it was just like, as soon as we get to that aspect of it, I was like, I see where you're going. It's just not really hitting tonally for me.
Mm-hmm.
Sign me up for anything with a Johnson in it, but I don't know. It doesn't work.
And like, this is the thing, like when I think of the series, it's like I always find a reason or a handful of shorts to go back and want to re-experience it and want to, just go into it and rewatch it for what it is. Not all of these movies are perfect, and not all of the shorts are even like worth rewatching year after year, but like this one is clearly the standout out of all the movies thus far, as to like, I don't ever really have a hankering to watch this one again. And it's like, it sucks because like, yeah, every franchise has kind of a blemish, and this one has to be this one. But I think at the end of the day, it's one of those where you're only ever going to recommend this movie to people who are hardcore VHS fans. And if they're as hardcore VHS fans as we can think, they've probably already seen it. Because like, I'm not going to tell anybody, like if I had it my way, I would have definitely called Adrian and been like, don't start with that. Like that would have not been my call. But hey, you know what? I'm glad you guys stuck through, because that takes us into our final movie. And what many people call, and rightfully so, I think, one of the highest of high points for the VHS franchise, and certainly probably the most impactful reboot you could do to us, like a very indie kind of like what this is anthology series. Like this really shaped what the last decade of VHS movies has become. And that's VHS 94. I should say that. Yeah.
I really enjoyed this one. From every story, from the aspect of it, I think was a lot of fun. And like you're saying, Dylan, I think having that, we go from Viral, we have, what is it, a 6-year layoff, I think maybe. I have to look at the timeline, but
it's something. I think it's even bigger than that, because Viral was 2014 to 2021, I think.
Okay, so we're looking at 2021. So we're looking at what, 7 years?
Mm-hmm.
So like
7-8 years. Yeah.
Being able to kind of re-rack and say, what do we want this franchise to be? It really feels like VHS 94 became that. Of it doesn't. We have to have stories that are meaningful, that people are going to latch onto, and not just have other B stories come out just so we get an installment out. It really feels like VHS 94 was. They really did take their time. It was time well spent away from the franchise to kind of re-rack and say, this is the direction we want to go into. When you look at those first two films and you're able to pull out names in what they were able to do in the horror space, it looks like that's what they were trying to achieve here, where it's like, okay, we have got some interesting creatives, we've got some interesting stories. Hopefully they're going to go on to do a lot of great things in the horror space. Let's give them that platform with VHS 94, because all these stories, it's such a variety pack, and so many unique avenues that they take, and they build great tension with a lot of these shorts, that it feels like they actually had that direction. They weren't just trying to get an installment out.
Agreed. And let's kind of go through some of these. I want to hear your thoughts. Obviously, I think I feel like I know what everybody's favorite's going to be, so we'll hold off on Storm Drain. But I saw Crystal brought it up just now, but Timo is back again for this one, and he has The Subject, which is probably my second favorite out of these ones. Like, I think that his is just so, again, creative and twisted and messed up, and it's just one of those things where it's like every time I watch it, I'm just kind of blown away with all of the things they were able to do and show with all these little cyborg creatures and stuff like that. It's like, I love it.
It was yeah, absolutely dark. I love the way that one opens up with the head. It looks like that thing from Toy Story real quick.
Yes, yeah.
And I love the avenue that they take. I love this one where we're told from the POV of the one subject, and we have the battery power, like the battery in the I think that's such a perfect ending to something, because it's like you're just watching that battery power drop as we go
Mhm.
through that, and this the mayhem that ensues. It really takes you on that thrill ride. And that is another one where it's like I could easily see that one being making into a feature film and could be a lot of fun with the route that they go in. It reminded me a little bit of the film Grotesque that I covered in my
Yeah.
one Japanese horror. It was like it gets really dark, it gets really disgusting. It's got that griminess to it, but then also has those action
It's kind of
elements.
has the Tetsuo the Iron Man imagery as
Yes,
well. Mhm.
absolutely. Especially when some of that ending imagery when we're in the lab and the one lady's laying and she detaches her, and I'm like, God damn, this is dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it, man. It had a really good story, and I just loved the really grim and dark atmosphere. You kind of could just feel how hopeless the two victims felt in that scenario. And I also liked how it got a little, what's it called, Hardcore Henry on us a little bit
Yeah.
at the end
Yeah.
there. You know, that's the one that kind of dated the movie for me. I'm like, oh, this must have came out in like 2015 or something.
Yeah,
um,
no, they just it was 2021, but they really I think it's one of those things where it's like you can use that like kind of first person view, and this is I think a very appropriate kind of film to use that in because of the concept and how they're running it. But like, yeah, I feel what you're saying where it's like that was a trend for a while there.
hmm Yeah, it was really cool. The little like foreshadowing for her having like the machine gun rocket launcher weapon. The one guy kind of turning bad. They had that face off at the end. Super cool stuff. I didn't know at the time that I watched it that this was directed by Timo. You know, when I saw the SWAT team come down there, I was like, this kind of reminds me of the raid. And,
Mhm.
I see it was no coincidence.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can tell that like throughout anything that this guy's gonna do, there's going to be a lot of balls to the wall, gory action stuff. And I think he does a really great job. And I think that like you can really see with this one that like he's able to balance the horror with the action. I think this is probably the best balance he has throughout a lot of his movies because like it's still very freaky and very scary. It's like, it is borderline pretty disturbing stuff if you're not used to, some of the stuff like what Luke was describing, the Japanese horror stuff from like the 80s. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
it can be kind of a lot. And I think that it's just it's like a very balanced little short. Like you get just enough of everything, and it never feels like anything just goes too over the top.
Yeah.
It really does feel like a perfect recipe, and like the unveiling of when she's looking at herself in the mirror, like we don't
Oh yeah,
know. It's such well crafted from that POV perspective where it's so meaningful, and
because
I
we've
love.
only seen the reactions of people.
Yes, and that's what I was gonna bring. I love that reaction of we're only seeing the POV shot, and the like. I think they're gonna kill her, and it's like they're like, oh, she's not even human anymore, and
Mhm.
it's like, well, what the hell does this look like? And then we see that unveiling in the mirror. I think, oh, it's such a perfect buildup of tension. Has that great action to it, but then also such a griminess to it. Even when they our two subjects are tied up at the very beginning, I had even mentioned to my wife, I was like, oh man, this is such like grotesque, and
Mhm.
just the way that they're chained up there, I thought that was fantastic. So yeah, this one really haunting stuff for such a
Yeah.
short, but it really does pack that punch to it. This one, man, it is up there as one of my favorites as well.
I love
Oh yeah.
that continuous shot of when the guy starts waking up and the
Mhm.
doctor's like sawing the girl's like, skull cap off,
Yes.
blood squirts everywhere, takes the brain out, walks back over, and kind of just knocks the guy out with like a syringe in his eye. That was probably my favorite shot of the whole skit.
Yeah, it's definitely it. This one certainly amps up the violence and the gore and stuff. It's very reminiscent of things like Safe Haven, and again, knowing the director and his other works, it's like it makes total sense. But one that I thought was really really solid as well. And then if you look at like Azrael, I'm talking about Simon Barrett here with his shorts, The Empty Wake. That is also kind of funny to watch this and now see something like Azrael, which has such heavy religious imagery and things like that throughout it. And you can see just kind of that parallel between this and his work, where it's like we are at a wake and it's a funeral and everything, and just kind of how this whole story plays out. What'd you guys think of this one?
It was. Go ahead, Luke.
I was gonna say I didn't really know where this was gonna go, to be honest, because it's slower moving because there isn't that much dialogue to it, and we're kind of just sitting in the scene, and we have this whole wake, and it's like, well, where is this gonna go? You're kind of getting that the coffin keeps moving, but I don't really know what to expect in it, and then you kind of have what is it, like a tornado or something going on the outside,
Yeah.
big storm, and you kind of see this both these kind of converge where you have this tornado, but then you have this thing coming out of the coffin. And I love that. What a great shot of that. The coffin's knocked down and we're kind of just scanning. And then we see him over there in the corner. Don't know what to expect. And you see a little bit of the head on the ground. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I love what right before that, as she's there and the director's leaving for the night, and I think it was the director had said, I try to piece them together, as best I could. And it's like, what does this thing look like? And I love that unveiling. It's just so unsettling. And it's like the dark aesthetic that we do get there. It makes perfect use of found footage.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. It's definitely one that goes like, I don't think it's necessarily as well balanced as something like The Subject.
Yeah.
Just because we go for a zombie story, we have the tornado thing, it's like, and then by the end, she's zombified floating up in the air kind of thing. So it's like, it's one of those for me where it's just like, I like the concepts, I like the ideas here. And yes, I think you're spot on, Luke. That's probably the best shot in the whole thing. It's the one that I always remember. But I still think, like, as far as like coming off of Viral and walking into this is still another one that I think does kind of creep up in my head every once in a while, especially because, like you said, you have no clue where the hell this thing's going.
Adrian, do you have any thoughts?
Personally, I hated it. No, I'm just kidding. It was cool, dude. It was kind of a slower burn. The reveal at the end, I personally was kind of disappointed a little bit. I was like, okay, it's just a dude with like half of his head chopped off. Yeah, it's scary, sure, but it wasn't too crazy for me. What was crazy was I really liked how the tornado came at like the exact moment that I thought that the character would have been killed, and then it didn't end up happening that way, and that was a pretty cool like twist ending. I love that final shot where it's like the camera's like upside down. You see that character walking away, but yeah, it was, the payoff I felt like at the end was a little weak for the buildup, but I did like it. Definitely had my attention.
Absolutely. And I think personally why this one I think tends to falter for some people is it's following up the first segment. But we won't get there just yet. I do want to mention real quick the final one, just because I like this one too. I think the thing that I like about this one, but like I could completely understand if this one doesn't satisfy everybody. This is one I'd actually like to see get expanded upon. I'd like to see a broader story here because I love the whole like angle of going into this where it's like you're following this white supremacist group and then they just come across fucking vampires. There's a little bit of like Dusk Till Dawn in this one, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, I really like kind of like how Slater from the main like wraparound story shows up in this one and supply the guys with guns. It kind of reminded me of the similarly named character Slater from Archer, the animated series off of Fox. That guy was kind of up to some of the same things, I feel like. But anyway, going back into it, I wasn't too gripped by the story. However, I really love how it ended up when everything just goes to shit and, it just gets really out of hand. They end up, I liked how, like, what am I trying to say here? I thought at first that the sunlight was what would turn them into vampires at first. And when I found out it was actually vampires, I was pretty impressed. Aside from that, though, that's all I got to say about that one. it was kind of like a good like upper mid for me.
Okay. Luke, where are you sitting with this one?
This one's actually my second favorite of this one in VHS 94. I think I love the
I had a
concept.
feeling you'd like this one a lot.
Yeah, I this one honestly, especially coming out in 2021, knowing where we were at as a culture and the subject matter that we're diving into, it feels like okay, this is a little too real sometimes in certain aspects of it, and I love that take on it. Where it feels, I love that kind of jumbled nature to this. Again, makes great use of the found footage, really authentic feeling. I love the siren that goes off all the time. You don't know what the hell's going on, but then throughout this short, you start figuring out what exactly that means. And then by the time we get the last one, it's like, holy hell, what is going on? The unveiling work for me is what we do see when this is a vampire, and in that creature design, I think was really well done. I love that this whole plane gets derailed because, it just of something stupid. Plus, we're getting into some undertones with characters that I think is really an interesting route to go in. So it really does pack a lot of a punch in terms of how authentic this could be and the subject matter that it's not afraid to tackle. I think, that's why this one really stands out, just because of the realism that is attached to it, but then also intertwining those supernatural elements to it, where it's like, okay, so this is really feels real. I didn't know what to expect. I was really surprised when we went the vampire route to it. I love that they just kept referring to it as a creature.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to expect. The thing with like the rabbit, and it's like, what the hell's going on here? And what they got.
Be a giant rabbit at first or something.
I love the way they subvert you so many times in this to what's going on, and then I think vampires, like I could see it again being a little disappointing for people, but like I love it. I love when we get surprise vampire stories, and that's what this was. So
and I could see. I think even when they had mentioned that it was a vampire, I was a little disappointed. But then the unveiling of the way that it's shot, I think, is so well done, and it has that creep factor to it that I think I was right back on board with it, because I love, again, the guy, the leader's trying to do these tapes of where he's like talking, but they're all messed up and he doesn't really have that direction. You can totally tell they're kind of lost a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, it's so well done that it's like, okay, this really does feel actually real.
Yeah, and I agree with Tanya here. I do love the way the vampire looks in this one. It's just one of those things where it's, again, they're tackling, so it's like I want VHS to tackle werewolves so bad at some point. I want them to do that because, like, I love what they did here, and I think like they could totally do that. Like if we did, again, pitching it out there. I know everybody in the chat loves this. I love it too. VHS cryptids, like, let's fucking go. Like, we could have so much fun, like, because they always do that, and that's why I want to segue this into what I think is probably, again, top 3 VHS segments of all time, in my opinion. This hits everything that I love. This reminds me, and it's only because I had seen, I saw this just before we saw Frogman, but like this gives me Frogman vibes so much. I love everything about it. And of course, we're talking about the final segment here, and we'll mention the wraparound. We have to, but I gotta know everybody's thoughts. Luke, we'll start with you on Storm Drain.
I had very strong Frogman vibes with this one as well. I love the aspect of it in general. Them going into the sewers, that eeriness to it of like, oh, what's behind you? I see something behind you. That kind of lore that they established with this one, really kind of getting into that cryptid aspect of it, I think was really well done. And when we talk about not shying away from a payoff, my God, like what we get in terms of the creature effect on this is just so much fun. It's something where you're hungry to see this in terms of we could really expand upon this, really have a lot of fun with it. It has so many great tones to it when you're dealing with cryptids and you're not shying away from actually showing the cryptid and kind of establishing a bit of a lore to it. I think you could really have a lot of fun. You have a lot of room to play with it, and this one really just teases that. I'm honestly surprised we haven't gotten anything in terms of, hey, maybe now that we were talking about opening up creative studios and maybe people doubling down on different kind of storytelling, we would get something, hopefully, fingers crossed on this, because I think there's a lot left.
Movie. Oh yeah. Hell yeah, dude,
there's a lot left on the table with this one.
But you got to bring back the director. She went on to make one of your favorite movies from 2022, If you didn't catch that, she was the director of Watcher.
Oh no, I did not check. I didn't.
Isn't that fucking mind blowing? Two different feeling movies, two very different kinds. Like it's insane, and she crushed it. She crushes both the practical effects monster aspect of this, the culty stuff I love, and then she just absolutely crushed Watcher. Like
Yeah,
that,
the
another
tension in
fantastic
Watcher
movie.
is phenomenal. Like if you give her this long-standing cryptid film where you're just building a bunch of tension going into, the sewers, the lore behind it, everything like that, and then the payoff of an actual creature, my gosh, that'd be film of the year
It was
for me.
lovely, man. They hit that vibe with the new It movies. They hit that vibe with Barbarian. The whole act of just like walking into the unknown. You don't know what's going to be on the other side. I really loved where that put me. You know what I mean? I was so immersed in that scene. And, I thought at first like that creepy old dude down there with like all the mud over him was like the creature or whatever. I was like, okay, he does look kind of freaky. And he makes that goofy face and then blood runs down his chin. Half of me was like, that's just silly. But the other half of me was like, that's also really uncanny too. So
I think it adds so much to the world too that we start off with that and we build up to Aratma, because like the whole time I was with you, I thought, is this going to be like just this homeless encampment, like gone amok? Like, is this going to be like homeless people who've gotten sick from living in the sewers and now they have some weird virus like that are going to start killing people? But then it's like you get more and more into it. And it's like, personally, I had this one spoiled for me because when I went to, what really sparked my interest to go back to the VHS movies when 85 was coming out was that when I went back to look and see all of them, you obviously, anytime anybody talks about VHS 94, Ratma is plastered all over the homepage, deservedly so, because god damn, I love that puppet. I love those prosthetics. Like, it's a combination of the actual like mask itself being puppeteered and the person acting with it. Like, everything about it is just so well done. I love the elongated, almost xenomorph looking face. Like, it is so creepy.
Yeah, and the sketch was like hilariously accurate too in the beginning of the bit.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's just a shitty drawing, but no, it's actually what it looked like.
And I don't know if, because I jumped right into VHS 9. So I'd watched Viral and then in preparation for Sunday Scaries. And then I think right after that, after Sunday Scaries last week, I went into VHS 94. And so I had the whole sour taste in my mouth from Viral. And then instantly going into, what's it called? Storm Drain? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I wasn't expecting that sort of payoff to see an actual creature. I don't know. For some reason I had like, I'm going to be underwhelmed by this one, like Adrian. I was like, wait, I saw the guy with, the grime all over his face. I was like, okay, I guess that's where we're going with this. So it kind of diluted my expectation in a sense. And then when we get it, I was like, holy hell, this is fantastic. What a payoff.
And think about that too. Like, you got to understand where you're coming from. You're coming from a week to another week, where it's like VHS fans had Viral and then like 7 years of nothing. So they knew they had to come out of the gate swinging. And I think this is the perfect film to show at the start. Like it wins you over so quickly into it. And even though like the next one isn't as engaging, and like I said, I think that one suffers a lot from having to follow this up with the payoff and everything, but then having Subject right after that one, where again we get these insane practical effects and we just get these crazy ideas. It's like it's really starts to show kind of the balance that we would get as we continue throughout these.
Yeah, having that direction and kind of knowing what horror fans want, because it's like, especially that first story packs so much of a punch because it kind of sets the tone for what else you're going to see. It keep you engaged for the rest of the film. So it's like Storm Drain was a perfect placement, especially coming after Viral for 7 years and then hopping into VHS 94 and starting off with that to say, okay, guys, we know we messed up a little bit, but here, we're taking you on a journey here. Stick with us. We have a vision for it, because that gets you right in your seat, ready for what the next story is going to be.
Dude, and the gore effect of like at the end when she peeks all over her co-newscaster's face and his like skin falls off. That looked amazing, man.
Yeah, Gracie brought that up. I was gonna highlight
Yeah.
that yeah, it's one of those endings that's just like
So brutal.
they're melting. It's like hell yeah, dude, we're back. We're so back. I love that they just went so hog wild with this one. And again, it is just like we were taking a big swing to reestablish this franchise right out of the gate. All in all, like, we talked about 3 movies tonight. 2 is definitely a classic. I understand why people really love it. Safe Haven, I think, does a lot of the legwork there. But like 94 is I completely understand when some people say this is their favorite. And I think, like, for me personally, even though, you guys haven't seen the others here, but we're getting into territory where we're going to have to talk about 95 and 85, where it's like those ones, I think, or is it 99? And I
I
thought
think
there
it's
was a,
is it 99? I think it is 99, isn't it? Or no?
is it 94, 99? I don't know.
Yeah, 99, 85.
99, 85. Okay, so I was saying 95 this whole time. But like, yeah, so even though those ones I think have some really strong moments and they definitely are of a higher quality, it's like I don't blame anybody for saying that 94 is their favorite out of the franchise. I think it's got a very diverse, you could tell they had a lot on their back to come back and try to make things like reestablish themselves. This is like definitely, if I'm telling people to go and watch like VHS, I would say start with this and then go into the later ones and then go back. Because once you appreciate what they're able to do now, I feel like you'll appreciate the positives of the first 2 a lot harder. Because you can tell with those first 2, it's a very different animal than what it's become.
I think, the original gets its bonus points because it is the original. It lays the foundation for the franchise in general, what the concept's going to be. But I think right now, as it stands, as we're on this journey, I think Beyond's fantastic, and Halloween, well, we'll have to see where that where leads us. Only good places, but it's like this one, out of the ones that we're watching on this journey, this one is my favorite just because it does set that tone, like you said, Dylan. Gives us that direction of what the franchise is going to become. It really takes advantage of what it's supposed to be and really just has a lot of great storytelling. Because it's like, looking at this, I'd probably say The Empty Wake is probably my least favorite. And even that for me is not terrible at all.
Same.
But it's like having Storm Drain in this, and then the subject in this, and terror in this are really 3 for me strong stories that offer something completely different and really do take advantage of the found footage aspect while giving us really just creative stories that tie around everything. So, this one, I can see why this would be a favorite for a lot of people, just because it really does feel like, hey, we really wanted to pack a punch with all these stories and tell an intriguing story with everything.
Absolutely. And Adrian, your final thoughts?
I'm really excited to see the rest of the series. 94, like when I was watching Viral, I was like, okay, I got to enter the mindset of like, I'm watching like sort of a bad movie to sort of laugh at it, 94 was like, I really want to continue this, man. So yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the movies there. And I really want to revisit VHS 1 and 2 as well. My fiance watched 94 with me, so she's probably going to be hyped up and ready for the next one I watch as well.
Absolutely. Well, I did want to pose this because technically, VHS Halloween comes out this week. So, we're going to have that available and everything. Should we bundle the last half of this franchise into one video next week, one podcast, or do we want to stay the course, just do 99, 85 and beyond, and then we'll talk about Halloween again, or maybe just leave it up with the review? How do you want to tackle that? What do you guys think?
For me, I'm okay bundling the rest of them for next week, and then kind of we could always do a follow-up with Halloween, give it its own kind of flowers in a sense. I think
I was gonna say, because I really want Adrian to see Beyond,
yeah,
like I think he'd love that one.
Yeah, so I'm cool going that route with it. So hey, that'd be my vote.
Hey, I'll go along with the flow with you guys. I'm down for whatever y'all recommend. So
all right. All right, so we're gonna add one extra movie, so we will have 4 next week, I think. So that's 99, 85, Beyond. Okay, we'll just do those 3 actually.
Yeah.
Let's just stick with that. And then we'll follow up with Halloween again. So we'll follow up with that at a later date. Maybe we can do like a big crescendo because I know Erica will know this well. Anybody who else watches Jake's stream, he's a huge VHS fan, so I'd love to have him on. Maybe even have him on next week to talk the last couple because he will not need to rewatch them. He's seen them far too many times. So it's like, but he is a huge diehard VHS fan. So maybe we'll make that happen and we'll just do like a big crescendo there. And we'll have our review out at that point for VHS Halloween. So, and it'll be available. So maybe we'll do some light talking about that one, but we won't dive into spoilers, obviously. So,
Hey, you don't have to twist my arm to get Jake on here. I'll tell you what. I'm frothing at the mouth just thinking about it. So send him a text and hopefully he can be on.
Absolutely. And Jake might be on sooner rather than later. We were waiting for one other person who didn't end up subjecting themselves to the strangers. And I know we gotta get that out of our system. We might have to post that spoiler review here this week. So we'll see what we can do. But yeah, I think that'd be good fun. So let's keep it at that. We got the next 3. So that'll be again 99, 85, and Beyond for next week as essentials. Again, if you wanted to watch Halloween, obviously check it out. And then we'll do some light talking on that one, but we won't do any spoilers for that. We won't even dive too deep into it because it is brand new. Obviously, everybody has their own busy lives and personal schedules. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you got to watch it or you're not invited. I want to make it fair. So let's stick it at that. But yeah, this has been fun. This is another great series. I love doing this. I love how active the chat's been getting with it. Like, this has been fun. It's again, I think, great because even when we have people like Crystal in here, who's she's worked on a ton of films ranging from bigger budget to independent and stuff like that. So it's like she gets a different perspective. Everybody else here who's like got a passion for the stuff, who has, or some people who just watch it for the entertainment stuff. We all get to like walk away with different like segments and different shorts that we like. And I love that. This has been fun. I like talking anthology.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that's the fun of the VHS franchises. There's a story for everybody. Some you can watch the same thing and each person have a different favorite story. So I think that's the fun of it because even if, Viral wasn't a complete waste, I think there were some okay things in there. So it's like you always find something fun in these films.
Yeah. Definitely. And Adrian, you being a new, kind of, I guess, newly inducted into the VHS franchise, you're still feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah, dude. 94 was a high, so I'm ready to ride that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Crystal. We are shooting for it. We got it. I mean, it'll literally be the 3 of us would be involved. Like, even if it's like Luke and I are writing it and Adrian's there helping us. This has been the thing, like, since before Adrian moved to Tennessee. Like, he's always collaborated with Luke and I, and like he's always a part of it, whether he's acting or again behind the scenes. Like, he's helped us mix and do all the sound for our last short film. Like, he's definitely a huge piece to this. So I think one day we'll all get out there and we'll make some movies. We have to. I mean, we've written all this shit. Why would we waste it? So
sooner than we may expect too, man.
Hopefully.
Never know. Love to all the mods. Same.
Absolutely. Yes. Love to all the mods. What's up, Paula? Welcome. Yeah. And absolutely, Stephanie will do the bundle. Great stream as always. Yes. And thank you, Erica. And don't think I did not see your guys' conversation about teeth. That's going to be a subject soon on one of my lists. I'm excited to talk about it. But also, I did put this on the Patreon today. That's we're going to be planning because we're going into October. Obviously, I know Luke and I had mentioned this before, but we're going to try to plan to do some watch parties throughout the month of October. We're going to put some votes out for, probably some. I was thinking maybe doing like a classic horror movie and then maybe something that's a little newer. And then if we wanted to do 3, we'd do one that's like either completely weird and zany or one that's just like absurdly disturbing. So, we'll kind of have some levels to it, but I think that'll be fun. I can't believe October is almost here. How do y'all feel about it?
A couple days
September
away.
Felt like the fastest month ever.
Mm-hmm. It's really going crazy here. And I got to say, I have been to like 5 Spirit Halloweens in our area. Luke, have you been to the one in Cuyahoga Falls yet?
Yes. Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that might be my favorite that I've been in a while. That setup is so wild. They have like the archways, everything
Yeah.
decked out to the nines, and they are stocked with stuff. Like
Yeah.
we went there, took Atticus, and like he's so obsessed with Spirit, he knows the name of all the animatronics. So it's like we're running around, and he's just like, "Oh, it's Sewer Rat, and it's this guy, it's Monkey Bones, and stuff." It's like he just loves it all, and like he just knew everything. We were going through that thing. We spent maybe an hour and a half there. Like, and again, it's all the same shit, but there's like more of it. So
Yeah.
it's crazy.
That's a fun one. I did. I got the
There you go.
little candy dish guy there. I still got to find some candy to put in this guy, but very cute stuff. They have no shortage of Art the Clown things, as well as a ton of great horror merchandise. I can't wait to go again. I tell you, it gets addicting. That's always the stop from end of August throughout November 1st. Is always just you got to stop at Spirit Halloween because they have.
Hey, if we do really well, if we make a lot of money this upcoming month in October, like everybody who runs the horror channel says they do, we can definitely go, because now that we make our own schedule, we can take advantage of the 50% off sales.
Absolutely.
I know Luke's been waiting for that, because you used to literally take the day off for that, and now
I would. Working a full-time job, I would take a week off going into. I'd always go from whatever the 5 days were to go from make sure I had Halloween off and then November 1st and make sure we take advantage of all the Spirit Halloween stuff.
Absolutely. Yep. And then that's probably amazing. I know Crystal, we had her on Beyond the Splatter Graves just a couple weeks back, and we were talking about the haunted houses there at Universal, like Halloween Horror Nights. I am so trying to get out there eventually. Like I've seen so many video clips and stuff. I think one of the other people who's guested, Hayden, went, and he was putting stuff all over his Instagram, and like, dude, like they had the statue for Art the Clown and everything, the Clown Cafe, the whole nine. It was amazing. And yeah, I'm a slut for the clown. I agree with Erica. Art the Clown is my boyfriend as well. He's the best. I just like going into Spirit Halloween, like especially because like, have you seen the sword and the hacksaw, Luke?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, so they have the sword at least the one in Wadsworth and the one in Falls. They have the sword, the hacksaw, and the table leg with all the knives and shit in it. They're so fucking fun. I love them. I pick them up every time I'm there, and I'm just like, these are so cool. And they're not like outrageously priced, but you know, you're spending like $25 for each one, and it's like,
I still want to get the I want to try and get it this year, the Halloween 2 pumpkin. That I had my eye on it last year.
If you're trying, dude, I've seen it a couple of times.
I've seen it a couple times. I just have to, you know, it's one of those things, budgetary things is
I know. Because I want the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah.
But it's like $50. It's like, oh dude. Like, goddamn.
There's way too much cool shit in there. It's like it's like the essential stop throughout September and October, but then it's like unless you have an endless supply of cash, you just go out and like, damn, man, I wish we had an endless supply of money to just buy everything.
Yeah. I met a bunch of Terrifier people at a con a few weeks ago. Best weekend of my life. I'm jealous as hell, Gracie. I want to meet them so bad. We've been trying for the last 2 films to get Damien Leone on for an interview. And it's like every time he is always like the hottest name of the list. Like I was impressed. I was able to get 10 minutes with Lauren Rivera. That was definitely one of those pinch me moments, but like, and she's super wonderful. Like even beyond the stuff, like we get to talk to him usually like a minute or two before the actual interview starts. But like she was so down to earth, so cool about everything. Like, and you could tell that she was tired because she had been through the ringer at that point. We were talking about a week before the movie came out, but like she was such a good sport, and I appreciate her to no end for that interview.
And you found out what Halloween candy was essential.
Yes.
The important questions.
Yep. And I saw the sword was cool. I ended up getting the Sienna shirt. I see. That's what I'm saying. Like they're fat phobic, man. I'm out here. I'm busting down all these exercises now, trying to lose all this weight because I got to fit into a large or an XL. It's like I'm down to a 2X right now, but I need to get it because like I want that Sienna shirt so bad. Like there's that one. They have a couple of really good shirts this year. Like I don't know. I could probably talk about Spirit forever. We should probably do like a Patreon video, Luke, where we just walk around
Yeah.
Spirit and
We should
commentate.
absolutely. Let's do that. 100%.
Mhm.
I'm on
And
board.
just like we'll walk through. It'd be even better if we did a live, because then it would basically be like having everybody there, just like we could all talk about it. Or if we had like a generous like $1 million donator who was just like, yeah, you come through and we'll just fill up a shopping cart, do like a Mr. Beast style thing for at Spirit Halloween. Let's do that. That's what I would do. That'd be fun as hell. Oh yeah. Yep. And it's funny enough though, like, and I promise we'll wrap it up, but like Atticus wants a jumping spider so bad. Like he wants one of those jumping, like every time we're there, he loves to go to all the animatronics, but the jumping spider is his favorite. He knows that it's going to freak him out and he does this little jump back, but he like gets all excited and witty whenever it happens. Like I tell you, my son is on cloud 9 right now. Like we're going to everywhere we're going. There's animatronics everywhere at Walmart, Home Depot, something. It'd be amazing. I wish, Crystal, I have a buddy who has a much bigger channel than us, the Merkins, who has tried for years, and he's done a couple of partner things with them, but I don't know if they do sponsorships like that. I'd really have to look into it. My Xmas glasses, I think they're upstairs with him right now. I know my sunflower ones are up there right now because I was wearing them. I was showing one of my friends had come over and I was showing him what I had found. So, yep. Oh, speaking of Xmas, I did want to mention this. You guys know how they did Spirit Christmas?
Yeah.
We're finally getting one. North Canton's going to convert immediately from Spirit Halloween to Spirit Christmas.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. I am pumped.
Dude, what?
Have you not heard of this, Adrian?
I've not, man. That sounds fire, though.
Yeah, it's literally like how we feel about Halloween, they're literally jumping straight to Christmas. But it's also like they have a huge, it's like general Christmas stuff, but then they have a huge section of holiday horror. So it's like last year I didn't expect that. So I was like, holy crap. Like they had stuff for Silent Night, Deadly Night, which I bet they'll have stuff for the remake this year.
Absolutely.
Like this is going to be like, I'm always saying like, you got to watch me when it comes to Spirit Halloween. I have to be in check all the time. But like, I feel like we're going to have to put a leash on Luke this year if he goes in there and sees too many holiday horror things. Cause
I'm going to have my Krampus sweater on. And
oh my God. They have the sweaters too. They have like a whole wall of just random Christmas sweaters that are all horror and stuff, man. So
that's going to be rough. That is going to be rough.
Yep. Let's that's awesome. I'm so jelly. My closest spirit's 15 miles away. Oh, geez. And that's the thing. I feel so spoiled because we have like 7 of them within driving distance of us. Like we can go to like Kent, we can go to Farallon, Wadsworth, Lakemore. Like we are so spoiled by them. And you know what? That's why we don't waste a moment. We go at least once a week in my household. We try, even if we're just window shopping. It's like the kid just loves
essential
it.
Stop.
It's like an Ohio thing, man.
Oh, absolutely. See, like, and as he's getting older, he's like talking about haunted houses now. And I'm like, I don't think we're going to do that yet. If I could find like a good, like, younger kid haunted house, that'd be a good one to start with.
They need to start doing those, I think,
I want to take him on like a haunted hay ride. Yeah. I wish I knew where those were that weren't like intense. Cause like I need to do that to get him introduced. And then we'll go to the haunted laboratory and the haunted schoolhouse. And oh man. All right. Well, that is it. That's all we got. I'm beat. I'm tired. We got to record a review. So, it's like we got to do that. But thank you guys so much for staying with us, letting us talk about Spirit and all our other stuff, talking VHS horror movies, and of course the horror movie news and everything else going on. We are literally within the week going by this time next week, we will be in spooky season officially. So be prepared. Lots of fun stuff. I've already got some fun videos on the docket, some things already halfway completed. There's going to be a lot of great stuff, as well as just these final couple reviews from Fantastic Fest earlier this week. Definitely keep an eye on it if you're a Patreon subscriber. Lots of fun interviews and stuff, all from last week, because that's basically what Luke and I did for the first half of our week, was watch movies, shoot reviews, interview people. So you'll be getting a lot of that all this week. So keep an eye out there. And yeah, that's That's all we got. So until next time, guys, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And I'm bottom guy.
And yeah, remember, stay scared.